Oh, Stephen King, you've done it again. Another year gone. There was a hair in that one. Oh, 2019 was miserable, and 2020's off to the worst start possible. Shit. Oh well. Welcome to my year-end video. Happy New Year, everybody! We've made it to 2020. But before we can celebrate the year that's about to be, we must first enshrine the year that was in an archaic, good, and bad format. Because even though 2020 is on the way, it lies in wait to disappoint us, as did the year that preceded it. That's a bit of a downer. We're going to try and be a little more positive here as we do our yearly tradition of recapping a bunch of things. In any case, we're saying goodbye to 2019, the okayest year I can remember ever experiencing. Maybe that's a little too harsh. There were some good things that happened to me in 2019. For example, I released my second novel called Whispers from Over My Shoulder. That's available now on Amazon.com for purchase in either paperback or a Kindle e-reader format. So that's pretty cool. I bought a new car. That was nice, and if you know anything about me, knowing the really intelligent, cautious fella that I am, you know that I had my priorities in the right place when I picked a new car. I bought this shirt specifically for this because I thought it looked nice, but I'm too fat for it. It said large. I guess I'm extra large. God, I feel like if the Hulk was Al Borland after too many bean burritos. Oh, yeah, but how was the year for media? Because if you know anything about me, I love to consume. Even if it was okay at best, I think it left us with a year chock full of dumb stuff to talk about. So let's talk about some things that I liked and some things that I didn't like, some okay, pleasant surprises and some non-so-pleasant surprises. And you know what? Let's just fucking have a party, because that's what we're here for. Movies. Let's start with movies. Ready or Not. You know, of the 86 movies that I saw in 2019, I probably had the least expectation going into Ready or Not. Not because I thought it was going to be bad, but because, oh, who the fuck am I kidding? I thought it wasn't going to be very good, and I felt that way about a lot of kind of smaller horror thriller movies this year. You know, movies like Crawl, Ready or Not, In the Tall Grass, The Perfection, Escape Room, but all 5 of those actually ended up being pretty good, and Ready or Not actually surprised me the most. And I think the reason for that has to be the lead actress, Samara Weaving. She is so damn likable! Movies like this, they live and they die, or at least they should, on the back of their characters. You should want to root for them to survive. You should want to like them, so that way whatever struggle they're going through, you want to see them through it because you like them. This is a simple concept. A lot of horror movies are more into the idea of the bad guys or the monster being the more interesting thing, to where you want to root for the monster, but that to me is completely backwards. I don't really care for that, but I was really happy that Ready or Not had such a likable main character. And it was like little things, little subtle things that Samara Weaving did to convey character through this. Like the way the main character moves when she's excited. Just like little facial expressions throughout the course of the movie. Really subtle things that she did with the character. Really subtle things that were done with the cinematography. Really helped to make her a likable character. The movie has a really good sense of humor, a great sense of action, and the final shot is beautiful. Knives Out. This film is just lovely. It's a really good murder mystery, and I loves me a good murder mystery. This film is loaded to bursting with excellent characters, really eccentric characters, ones that are played really well. The performances are great. A bunch of excellent actors are in this movie. Rian Johnson was paying tribute to Agatha Christie, and I think he did a fantastic job. You know, so I feel like Ricky Bobby. Like, I don't know what to do with my hands today. It's This is great. Happy New Year. But you know what? I'm powering through these takes anyway, because you know what my family always told me is never give up. That's a lie. No one in my family has ever said that before today. But we're going to pretend like they did, because you know what? We are pioneers. What I really liked about it was it managed to trick me, and that's really hard to do, because I'm so damn smart. No, really what I liked about it was the fact that it did manage to trick me. There was a line of dialogue that I thought was setting up what I thought the ending was going to be, and then when that line of dialogue is reincorporated, it turned out I was wrong as fuck. And that's okay, because it was still well implemented. And that's really an impressive feat when, you think you got the obvious thing going on, and then the movie's like, haha, Rian Johnson done gotcha. He done subverted your expectations. That's a little current event humor. One thing I actually really liked about it, being completely serious, was I liked the main character. I thought she was an excellent audience surrogate, where we could experience the story through her, but still have some mystery surrounding her. I thought I was going to hate that little plot element where she vomits whenever she lies. I was like, that seemed a little too kind of crazy for me. In this completely ridiculous plot as it is, this being the most ridiculous thing, I was like, meh. But it was actually used really well. I like how every single character kind of had a different utilization for that particular element, which I thought was creative. So, really good going, Rian Johnson. You get a thumbs up on this one, because good for you. One Piece, Stampede. Bruh. Animated movies this year were in shambles. You get it? Like Law? Never mind. There were actually only 3 animated movies that I saw this year that I thought were good or put like a smile on my face. The first was Trigger's new movie, Promare, which I talked about on this channel. You can watch me gush about it at a link that I will provide in the description. One was I Lost My Body. I forgot how to say it in French because I am a bad half-French man. You should go see it. It's a phenomenally done film. But the third film that actually made me really happy this year was One Piece's new film, Stampede. What I loved about it was everything I could have ever wanted in a One Piece film. It had a really threatening bad guy, even though in the grand scheme of One Piece he's just going to be forgotten as a movie bad guy. But above all, what I really loved was it managed to incorporate a whole bunch of characters. It was essentially a giant celebration of One Piece. And to quote an incredibly wise man, I like One Piece. I like One Piece so much that I literally have the Straw Hat Jolly Roger tattooed on my skin. I would show it to you, but the shirt is too tight. And this ain't that kind of video, no matter how many sips of that I take. I really did love that this movie managed to incorporate so many different One Piece characters without making a good percentage of them feel superfluous. Like, One Piece has been on for decades, and it's been a huge ensemble since the beginning, and to include so many of those characters is truly an incredible feat. And above all, my favorite character in the franchise, Sabo, was prominently featured in the film, and there's a great moment between the 3 brothers that put a big old grin on my big old dumb face. So, Dr. Sleep. Let's talk about some shit. I hated this movie. That's right, this was my least favorite movie of 2019. That's right, Dr. Sleep, that's my least favorite. The sequel somehow to both the book and the movie The Shining, which is bananas to me. Now, I've never read Stephen King's novel, Dr. Sleep, but if this film is anything to go by, I have no intention of doing so ever, because the plot is terrible. The characters are boring, and the villains were just ineffective, one-note, bland, and bad. The plot of this movie, the plot of Dr. Sleep, let me clue you into the plot here. There's kids in the world that have The Shining. Sort of nebulous powers that, I guess at their most base form, give kids heightened intuition, I suppose, because really only the main characters get to use any sort of like really specific powers. Everybody else that the villains are after are really just like, hey, this kid can hit a baseball really good. And the villains are soul vaping vampires. I guess that's the best way to describe them. And they are called the True Knot. That is their name, the True Knot. And yeah, like I said, they are soul vaping vampires. They seek kids who hit home runs in baseball really good, and then they kidnap them and eat them in a way. So one scene in this movie, Jacob Tremblay gets gutted like a little fish, and the main bad guy inhales his spirit smoke and then burps it into the mouths of the other vampires, and that is how they sustain their youth, I guess? So, yeah. These bad guys are woefully ineffective. I mean, unless you're Jacob Tremblay. I mean, shit didn't really go too good for him. But because the main characters are the main characters, they're able to exploit a not-so-obvious weakness of the True Knot, and oh, hell, do they take advantage. Do you know what the one weakness of these soul-vaping vampires is? Extended gunfire. That's right, all you gotta do is mow them down, and that's it. That's the end of them. You don't even have to worry about it. They're barely a threat. This movie is 2.5 hours long, and that's about 2.5 hours too long. I mean, I was bored out of my True Knot. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. This movie made me want to rise out of my chair and skywalk on out of the theater. Next, TV shows. I don't have cable, so I don't really watch a whole lot of network television. I mean, I mostly just watch miniseries about weird murderers. But occasionally I find it within my soul to watch an actual series, to sit down and actually experience something. But yeah, that's rare. So I guess if anything, this topic will be brief. Chernobyl. Yeah, this is one of those rare series that I actually sat down and watched. Although you probably could make an argument that it's still a miniseries about a weird murderer. Although the murderer in this case is radiation and misinformation. Anyway, Chernobyl is a wonderful series that follows the aftermath of the Chernobyl disaster. The characters are really well written, the visuals are astounding, and it does a great job detailing a lot of the events from the actual subject that I was unfamiliar with, and I'm pretty fascinated with the source material. So even if you're not really familiar with what happened in Chernobyl, either leading up to, during, or after the event, I highly recommend this series because you might learn something, or at the very least, you're going to be entertained by a good series. The Island. Bruh, this is the dumbest show I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like The Island. It is hysterically awful. It is the kind of show that if I had more time, I would really want to delve deep into and dissect, or, if, somebody wanted to do a $10 Patreon donation and request it, but where are we going to find something like that? Alright, so at its most basic, The Island is Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair, but with no Monokuma, which automatically puts it on the bottom tier for me. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for the behind-the-scenes aspects of this show, because it feels like they tried to set some stuff up. There were some ideas that were put in, but it bungles them with increasing regularity and in more and more fascinating ways. Like, it feels like a show that got its proper episode order, but was still canceled prematurely. The series has twists and turns in it that feel like they should have major ramifications, but they don't. It's almost like they were forgotten about. I'll briefly tell you my favorite aspect of this show, okay? There is a character named KC. Not Casey, K-C. And you might think, well, what does that matter? It's just a name. What's the relevance of that? Yeah, it is extremely relevant because KC is an acronym. It's KC, but it is not a combination of a first and middle name as you might anticipate. Oh, no. KC stands for... I'm dead serious. I'm not making this up. It stands for Kills Children. That's amazing. With a name like that, she might as well go hang out with the True Knot from Dr. Sleep. Anime. I think I might have to turn in my weeb card, which is a shame because I designed it myself. I didn't really watch a whole lot of anime this year. If I thought anything was bad, I pretty much just drop it without really thinking about it, so... yeah, I didn't end up watching a whole lot as a result of that. Okay, I guess it'll make this one brief. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. This was just an obvious choice. I think I probably had the easiest time picking this winner than really any other. There might have been one other show that could have given it a run for its money, and that show was Babylon, but I didn't finish it, so I can't say for sure, and honestly, I don't think it would have stood a chance, because I'm already going through Demon Slayer a second time with my little cousin, and I'm rediscovering and re-enjoying it all over again, so I think that alone really gives it top marks. But it's so much more than that. You see, there are so many great characters. It does such a good job with character writing and character interactions. It's so good. It's the kind of thing I aspire to write. And I gotta say, it's got a great sense of humor, a great sense of action, and above all else, it is so well animated. If anything I ever create ever becomes animated, I would want the attention to detail and respect for the source material that Ufotable showed to Demon Slayer, because it's obvious that every single scene was lovingly animated. They did a phenomenal job. There's a great use of color, the action flows really well, they do a great job of using CG blending. For example, the fight against the Tsuzumi demon, Kyogai, was really, really well done and showed off a lot of those techniques. Demon Slayer was just so good. One of the things I'm actually most looking forward to in 2020 is the Demon Train movie that's going to be coming out. I think that's going to be really good. The characters are really excellent. Highly recommend Demon Slayer, although I think it's become the new popular anime du jour, so I think everybody's seen it, so I'm just another name on that pile saying that Kimetsu no Yaiba is great, so sorry I didn't watch more stuff where I could have been different. Following the crowd on this one. Kemono Michi, Rise Up. Fuck this series, man. I hated this. I wanted this to be good so bad. I don't think anything in 2019 disappointed me as much as Kemono Michi Rise Up, because there were so many elements of it that I would have loved to have seen done correctly, and it screwed up all of them. Well, how did it do that, Chris? What is it about? Well, let me tell you. Kemono Michi Rise Up is the story of Genzo, and Genzo is a professional wrestler. Alright, I like that. Genzo gets transported to another world. I, unlike most people, still like isekai. I'm all for that. While there, he wants to open up a pet shop because he loves animals, and he wants to do it with the creatures that he finds in the other world. Okay, these are pretty disparate elements, but you know what? I'm all for it. I stand this concept. Please do it right. And then they proceeded to do it wrong in every way. How did the wrestling get fucked up? Well, the wrestling in Kemono Michi is essentially just its desperate attempt for bad fan service. Not a good start. The isekai elements begin and end with the fact that some of the characters have animalistic qualities. And, last but certainly not least, the main character's a zoophile. Now, he doesn't just like animals. He doesn't even just like them a lot. He is sexually attracted to all of them. It doesn't matter if they are dog-like, if they are lizard-like. He is an equal opportunity animal fucker. And I hate it. It is gross and bad and terrible. And did I mention gross? You know something? Given the popularity of professional wrestling in Japan and the small but passionate fan base that professional wrestling still has here in the States, I would have thought that this could have been a great way for some people to see some animated wrestling. Because you know what? It's got good action, and given that wrestling is kind of in some ways supposed to be fantastical, putting it in a fantasy setting is so damn perfect that I'm even angrier now that it was so bad, because we didn't even get that. We didn't even if it was just going to throw some wrestling fans a bone by having some well-animated wrestling, we didn't even get that, because it's just still images with action lines, and they're not even doing really interesting moves, like no Huracan Ranas, no Canadian Destroyers, no Blue Thunder Bombs. No, we're getting a basic German suplex, a Boston Crab, a drop kick. It was essentially bad photography of a Brock Lesnar match. It was just really disappointing. Really bad and gross and stupid, and I think I might have said gross. I'm going to say it again. It was gross and bad and lame and bad and boring. and I hated it. Manga slash books. Chainsaw Man. It, unlike so many other things that I read in Shonen Jump or comic books or graphic novels throughout the year, it was one that started off pretty not good. Like, I didn't care for the main character. I thought that his sole motivation of just wanting some titty was really weak, and I didn't think that could carry an entire series. But as it went on, the characters got stronger, their motivations became more clear, and even the main character, his sole, what I thought to be weak motivation, actually ended up becoming an internal crisis about his place in the world and how he felt about being so alone as a demon in that world. And I thought that was actually an intriguing concept and really well handled. Chainsaw Man feels more risque than a lot of other Shonen Jump series, and it toes a line, and it does it with such reckless abandon that I really appreciate and respect it for that. So go check out Chainsaw Man. Doctor Doom. What? That's not a series for weebs. You're right, it's not. That is another segment of nerddom that I also occupy. And it was recommended to me by my local comic book fella. And I say fella instead of guy because that's a trademark and I ain't getting no C&Ds. This particular Doctor Doom series is a really intriguing character study where in it, Victor Von Doom is trying to prove his innocence when a horrible catastrophe happens in the name of Latveria and he is framed for it. It's a really... I've only read a few issues of it, there's only a few that are out for it, but I really like this look at Victor's character. It feels different. Like, he's still clearly a bad guy, and it's not like a total redemption arc like, you know, some other things tried to do in 2019 and absolutely failed at. This is not going for a redemption arc at all. This is just showing you another side of things, and it's kind of an interesting story where you have somebody who has done so much evil in his life, and he's aware of that, is trying to prove that an evil thing happened that could have very easily been done by him, and really anybody would be right in believing he could have done it. It's kind of an interesting story from his perspective to see him try and prove his innocence. And I also like any character study where the character being studied calls everybody a knave. Tokyo Shinobi Squad. Oh man, I wanted to highlight Samurai 8, The Tale of Hachimaru here really badly. Mostly to tick off people who are in love with Masashi Kishimoto and think he should be canonized because he bequeathed Naruto onto the world. But really that series' problem is that it's just front-loaded with a bunch of useless jargon that doesn't really mean anything. And, I mean, I guess it also underutilizes pretty simplistic characters, but at the end of the day, that series isn't good, but there's way worse stuff out there. I kind of wanted to highlight Mitama Spirit Busters because it's bad, but even that's just basic stuff. Hell, there's even a small part of me that wanted to highlight Black Clover because it is always and forever the worst piece of media that has ever been created and continues to be so every year until the end of time, but no. It's Tokyo Shinobi Squad. I don't yell much. I don't like to yell. Makes my voice hurt. I mean, hell, this extended talking is already making my voice hurt because I'm chasing the words with scotch, and that is not doing well for me right now. I'm sweating like a monster because I'm right under a very bright light. That's irrelevant. Tokyo Shinobi Squad made me yell. I yelled at this is a manga, and I yelled at it because it is bad. I don't think there was any series I read in 2019 that I thought was more deserving of being canceled, and that I was more joyous of when I learned that it was no longer going to be disgracing Shonen Jump, which is already a pretty demonstrably bad magazine full of terrible series, and clearly the quality control has gone down in recent years, allowing a lot of this garbage to get through. But I have never been more joyous of a series cancellation than I was with Tokyo Shinobi Squad. And I gotta tell you, it handled its cancellation really well, because it decided to set up a whole bunch of things only to ignore them and then time skip years in the future where everything is just sort of fine. There's no problems at all. Everybody's happy hunky-dory. You want to know what the most important thing that Tokyo Shinobi Squad wants to get across to you, the reader? It's that its main character, Jin Narumi, is really cool. Okay, his rival is his rival because Jin is cool. His love interest is his love interest because Jin is cool. His young sidekick remains his young sidekick because Jin is cool. All of the bad guys really respect Jin because he is cool. They all say this in their dialogue. Good riddance, Tokyo Shinobi Squad. Whispers from over my shoulder. Oh dang, this is a truly wonderful book. It's the story of a woman who's convinced she's being followed by a malicious entity, and it has been doing so for her entire life. And she recounts a bunch of tales from her childhood to a writer desperate for his next book. One Amazon reviewer said it was, and I quote, suspenseful and scary, and I couldn't agree more. Video games. This is gonna surprise you, but this is gonna be another brief topic. I did buy and play some games that were released in 2019. I say some, but some's better than none, as has been the case in years past. But, yeah, I actually did play some stuff. Unfortunately, most of the stuff that would have been worth talking about, I already talked about, and it's kind of hard for me to pick a favorite. Let me see, what did I play? I played through the first 3 Halo games, again, because I do that every year, and I just can't help myself. I played the first Nier. That was a pretty interesting little game. I liked a lot of that. There were some elements that I wasn't too fond of, but I feel like that game, I think I beat it in about 27 hours. It kind of was a nice little distraction for me before I one day play Nier Automata. So, hey, that was pretty cool. Pokemon Let's Go Eevee was a fun little trek back to the Kanto region that I appreciated. So, yeah, hard to really pick a favorite. Oh, I played What Remains of Edith Finch for the first time, and that was just a swell little game. And there were some other indie games in there as well, and they were alright too, I suppose. It does also make it quite difficult to pick a least favorite game of the year. I didn't really have one. I mean, I guess I did play Pokemon Pearl, which to me is the worst game in a main Pokemon franchise. I really didn't like it. I thought it was really poorly balanced. There's only 2 fire types in the whole game, including the starter, which I thought was bananas, just absolutely terrible. Really poorly optimized, poorly balanced. I felt like the leveling in certain areas was just really off. Like, I felt like I had to do a lot of extra grinding that I haven't had to do in other Pokemon games before or after Pearl, so I don't know what was going on with that one. The first half of it, I felt like I was just blowing everyone out of the water. Not with fire types, of course, because there's only 2, and fire is weak to water. But towards the end of the game, the back half, I found it harder and harder to realize where I was supposed to go. I don't know if I'm just a dummy and like it was said and I just wasn't paying attention, which is possible, but I felt like certain elements weren't really explained well enough on where I'm supposed to go at any certain time. I ended up traversing the map a lot. I beat the game in about 53 or so hours, which is about 15 more than it normally takes me to beat a main story of a Pokemon game. And most of that was just spent wandering around figuring out where I had to go and all that extra grinding I had to do, because there were parts of the later game where I felt like, holy crap, am I really this underleveled? It was just not good. I didn't enjoy it, and as I started to get to about the last 20 or so hours of it, I just wanted it to be over. I didn't do any post-game stuff. I beat the Elite Four, had that final battle against Cynthia, and oh god, was that DS throwingly bad. Oh, I was getting so annoyed. But I beat her, and then I put the game back on the shelf, never to be touched again. And it was the kind of bad where I'd be really iffy if they made a Gen 4 remake. I'd probably end up getting it because the amount of quality of life improvements that they've made to the franchise over the years would probably improve that game significantly. But just based off of bad memories, I don't know if I would want to get a Sinnoh remake. Music. Yeah, I guess I'm sorry that gaming topic was really weak. Like, I kind of cut my teeth as a video game guy. And I've only played maybe 300 hours of completed video game this year, which is the lowest it's been in 3 years. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just not wasting my time properly enough. I feel really bad about it. But fret not. It's a little bit of music humor from me to you. I listened to a shitload of music in 2019, and I've got only good things to talk about, so let's do it. Trauma by I Prevail. I listened to 39 albums front to back in 2019, and I already posted on Twitter which my favorite was, and that is I Prevail's Trauma album. I will say, for full disclosure, I saw I Prevail in concert on their Trauma tour, and it was one of the few concerts I actually got to go to this year, so hearing a lot of this stuff live really helped out, because I ended up enjoying it a lot more and listening to it on subsequent car rides. The reason, though, why I pick it to be my favorite is because there's just so many relatable tracks on it, and just so many great jams. I really, really loved... There's a fantastic banger, bombastic brag song called Bow Down. That was really, really entertaining. They're actually, I think, nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Metal Performance for Bow Down, and really deserving. They did a great job with that one. I really like that song. There's an excellent, relatable track about being attacked by your own brain called Breaking Down that I really enjoyed. And I even liked the thrash anthem Gasoline, even if it does sound like a mashup of Bleed It Out by Linkin Park and The Lines by Beartooth. I really, really liked this album and would highly recommend, if you're looking to get into a more kind of, I don't even know what you would call this genre. It's just a mashup of a whole bunch of different ones. And I think every single element of the album is treated and handled really well, so check it out. Okay, I'm Sick by Bad Flower. Ghost was an excellent prelude of things to come from Bad Flower. What I really liked about that song was that the writing was phenomenal, and that holds true for pretty much every song on Okay, I'm Sick. There's a bunch of great tracks that I'm still listening to on long car rides. For example, I really liked The Jester was a good one. Murder Games I listened to a lot. Xanax and Heroin. There's a bunch of really well-written tracks. The lyricism of these songs is so good. I highly recommend. They're a little different. They're kind of like a throwback to more emo music, but I think they were fantastic. I loved listening to them, and I am really excited for whatever they come up with next. Balance, Symmetry by At My Mercy. Have you heard of At My Mercy? Well, based on their YouTube view counts, I'm guessing no. But you should correct that, because these guys are great. And I listened to their album, Balance, Symmetry, in 2019, and I fell in love with it, and I really want them to do more stuff so that I can listen to more. 2 songs in particular stand out, although the whole album is great. If you want to check them out for yourselves and see if you like them, I'd highly recommend you check out the songs Decay and Not a Chance. I think these guys are from Phoenix. They're really relatively unknown, and I would highly recommend you check them out. I'm trying to think of who they would be like, but I'm not really good at that kind of thing, so I guess you should just listen to those songs that I told you to listen to and decide for yourself, without me having to equate them to any other band. We Are Not Your Kind by Slipknot. Yeah, Slipknot delivered in droves. Of course they did. Solway Firth was in the running for my favorite song of the year, as was Nero Forte, as was Unsainted, as was Spiders. It's an absolute banger of an album, and it should be cherished for years to come. Well done, Slipknot. Favorite song. I'm really just doing this because I threw it on Twitter as well. Ordinarily, I don't think I would have talked about it, but the album that this particular song comes from wasn't highlighted here. Starset released Divisions in 2019, and it's a really good album. I liked it a lot, and they're probably the band that I am most eager to try and see in 2020. They're like of all bands I need to see. I need to see these guys. Although it doesn't look likely. But I'm going to try. They released Divisions, and there's a song on that album that I loved more than any other song this year, and it's called Manifest. I listened to it probably more than anything else, and like I said, it beat out songs by Bad Flower, it beat out songs by Slipknot, and it beat out songs by Tool. That is pretty freaking good, so you should check out that album too, and listen to that song, because it's really, really good. Man, this is going to be a bitch to edit. Whew. But we've reached the end. We're at our final conclusion, a wrap-up, if you will. where we talk. Basically, kind of bring it all together. That was 2019. Bye, bitch. God, I shouldn't ever say anything like that. We're moving into 2020, and new adventures and ideas and new things that we can all enjoy await. But I still think it's a good idea to kind of celebrate what we did get, because, I don't know, I feel like our attention span as a community is so limited these days, where stuff is going to come out in 2020, and we're going to completely forget about what happened just 365 days prior. Like, I'm trying to think back to the stuff I really liked in 2018, and it escapes me. Probably because I've had a couple glasses of scotch, but that's not important. That's got nothing to do with nothing. The important thing is, I think it's important that we, kind of talk about these kind of things, and that it be up in public record, that we did in fact like them, because pretty soon you're going to be seeing those memes where it says, 2021 is on the way, but my dumb ass still thinks it's 2017. And man, if that is not the most relatable meme that has ever been released. But let me know in the comments, what was your favorite shit of the year? In any of those topics that I discussed. I mean, I talked about a whole bunch of them. I may not have talked about them well, or talked about a whole lot of different things, but I certainly did talk about things. So, there's plenty of opportunity for you to stick your face into the fire and let me know what you thought about stuff. That was a little aggressive. What did you like this year? What did you not like this year? Start a conversation, but keep it respectful. And if you liked this nonsense, and you're like, man, that guy is what a guy, consider liking it, subscribing to the channel if you're not already. I do weird stuff all the time, so yeah, that should be a good enough reason for you to subscribe. And if you want to support me, you can always go to www.patreon.com/ChrisTheNerd92, and you could donate to the cause and help support me, and it would be much appreciated. You can make requests for stuff for me to talk about in specific for as little as $10. And what a steal that is. You could also go to Amazon.com and purchase either one of my novels, as I've mentioned probably 30 or 40 times already in this video alone. But hey, bring it up one last time, because why the hell not? And above all else, ladies and gentlemen, here is to 2020. Here is to the year that was. Here is to what will be. And above all, here's to you, my loyal, loving viewers. And here's to me. I took a smaller sip that time.